Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Data Dialogues. We're back after a little bit of a break and super excited to have our next guest here, Professor Paul Hansford. And we are going to have an amazing conversation about data and Paul's extensive career and experience within the industry. To give a quick introduction before Paul goes ahead and introduces himself, Paul's been working for over 30 years in academia and industry, and he's taught so many people these data, AI, and different skills as well as working on his own projects. So we are super excited to have you here today, Paul. And thank you for being here. Would you mind giving your own introduction about yourself and your background?
Sure, I would love to do that. So I started out when I was pretty young. I was born at a young age. And I started in computer science and mathematics at a small four-year school in Northeast Ohio called Mount Union, Purple Raiders. And then my first career began working at an online search platform called LexisNexis. And after that, I kind of parlayed into some consulting, and where I was a VAR for several I would say it's pretty small. Like LexisNexis was about 4,000 employees, and then I jumped to like like 20 or 30 employees, and so that was a little smaller. But I consulted with CRM products, which is customer relationship management, for about 20 years or so at a couple different firms. One was a national consulting firm out of Columbus. One was a regional consulting firm out of Springboro, Ohio, some local to Dayton area. And then I attended Wright State University for grad school, and another Raider school, by the way, for the mascot, and picked up a graduate degree. And during that time of my last consulting gig, I was doing a lot of training with people who were learning the CRM tools, and that kind of parlayed into adjunct work, and that eventually led me to full-time teaching, which I've been doing for the last 10 years.
Amazing. So a lot of experience with data, industry, and teaching. And to start off our questions here, what is the current work that you're doing, and how are you using data with those current projects?
Sure. So, I mean, it's kind of a multifaceted kind of question there, but there's I have different roles, and so one role is that I'm a professor, and so that involves teaching, and that involves capturing data on how students are doing, and then reviewing like student success and student performance. And so some of that would require, like I meet pretty regularly with like a success coach, and we tend to look at student performance, and then we come up with ways to, based on their data, to, how often do you log in, and what assignments have you done, and which ones have you missed, and things like that. So I'm kind of revealing behind the scenes here. That we will, based on those things, send nudge messages to students to personalize how they might move from maybe an A to a B to an A, or a C to a B, or something like that. And and when that progress happens, that's really encouraging. And we do that. We take action based on data, so that helps us. The other side of the coin would be I do research projects with the National Science Foundation, and I've been doing that since I was hired in for probably like 10 years, probably like 5 or 6 different grants. And the first 2 or 3 grants was all about working in the grants, and then that kind of flipped, and then I became a PI, so a primary investigator for a grant that I ran, and that was basically to address the segue between high school and college for data professional skills.
Wow.
So there's a lot of data that gets tracked for NSF, and they want to use that as evidence that you're doing the work that you committed to doing, and so that's measurable improvements and impact. So that's really great. And there's a last role that I have, which is this year I become a what is called a Department of Defense STEM ambassador, and so that was a 12-month role, temporary role. There's a lot of data in that, but that is being tracked on the other side. So I have a series of things that I do, a series of meetings that I go to, a series of conferences and tasks, and that's all tracked on the other side from the people who are paying for it. So Tiger Woods is my boss.
Wow.
So the TGR Foundation, the Earl Woods, coupled with their partnership with DSEC and Department of Defense. So very exciting, and that's all data as well.
Wow, I did not know that Tiger Woods was getting into the data game, but it makes sense from his competitive
I'm sure that
personality.
he is very, very into the data game with golf.
Of
I'm
course.
imagining like there's a lot of metrics. I'm sure that he has coaches and other things like that.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, I know a lot of the current athletes and golfers like Bryson DeChambeau are analyzing everything about their swing and their performance, and they're using that to make their performances better. And it's kind of similar to what you were mentioning with your students and being able to use data. I think a lot of times data has a reputation of being kind of cold and impersonal, and
Yeah.
you're reducing people to numbers. But I think seeing sometimes that it gives you more information about people and allows you to help in certain ways, and finding out different parts about their performance where they might could use extra support is a really powerful use of it for good.
Exactly. The impact of data can be seen, I think, in just about every stage of my career, of course, but in every walk of life. We have smartwatches now and smartphones, of course, but I even have a pair of smart glasses that do different things with AI, and
Yeah.
I don't wear them all the time, but I can. That's pretty neat, and that's very data driven, I'm sure. And I even have an AI toothbrush. How's that?
Wow.
So AI can impact a lot of different areas. I really want an AI lawnmower, but I have to talk my wife into that one. But I told her that the ROI on it would I would say 450 hours in 4 years, but like she just doesn't see me spending that money yet. But that's coming. Maybe the prices will come down. But the big thing is data and AI is impacting just about every area of our lives.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's incredible with all the different hats that you're wearing in your day to day as a professor, as a researcher, as an ambassador, and then as a personal experimenter, just using the tools for fun. And just across these different roles and all of your projects, what would you say is the most impactful use of data that you've seen, or some examples of things
Oh
where
wow.
it made a real difference?
So there's probably a couple different stages in my career areas that I can think of. Like LexisNexis, it was like my first job coming out of college, and it's a really big online and legal and news platform,
Mhm.
and they had petabytes of information in a big data center, and I saw firsthand how like information can be first organized and searched online to do something. Later in consulting, it was data was data is more important than software because like if you think about if you're moving from system A to system B, it's the data that moves from those systems, and that's very impactful. Knowing that companies will throw away the old software, but they will keep the data because that's extremely valuable to them and making decisions and doing great things for their applications. But even in my grant work as of late, one of the things that was pretty exciting is we noticed that there was 50% women and 50% men in a STEM, you know, in a STEM program, our data program, and that's very unusual for like computer science in particular, where if I look into an average classroom of say like 24 students, 20 of them will be men, and a few of them will be women. And so that was very interesting to see 50-50. And so we used that study to find out what attracted them to the program and then what retained them into the program. Different students at different parts of their learning. And what we found was, I thought my hypothesis was that they were connecting because they were looking for a way to impact the world with data, and it turned out that they were looking for the I don't know how to say this, the pot of money. Like they were looking for the high income potential was what was attracting them to the game, and secondly was flexibility of schedule, and then it was the program offerings, like the modalities of the courses that were offered. And so we took that result and we fed that into, okay, the so what was, how do we then take what is attracting students and helping them, that's the support that's retaining them in the programs. And we said, well, what do we need to change? What can we do? And so one of the things was outreach. And so we ran some outreach campaigns, and then from that we learned it was incredible. The results were amazing, and it was very targeted. We had help with marketing students and marketing professor who was very data driven, and we came up with we need to adjust the website landing pages. We need to update our communication strategies, and we saw tremendous engagement and enrollment based off of the things that we learned. It wasn't just men or just women, it was both men and women, but it was targeted towards how the women said that they were attracted to the program. So it was organically, we didn't do anything special to attract women to our program, but because we wanted to find out why and how we could attract both more men and women to our program. So that was incredibly impactful.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing. And I think that there's so many elements of that are classic with the data science process and just the data industry in general. But that first part that you mentioned about just taking a second to look at the statistics to begin with, and I think DJ Patil, who is one of the former chief data scientists for the Obama administration, once said, if you can't measure it, you can't fix it. And
Right.
taking a notice of this class does have a more even distribution in gender, and these other classes don't. What's the difference? And then reverse engineering it, combined with that initiative to market and landing pages and bring more people in and replicate that success, I think is an incredible story. And on the flip side, what is some of the least impactful use of data you've seen where I mean, sometimes it gets used a lot as a buzzword, like it's
Yeah,
data
of
this,
course.
that, but have you seen examples where it didn't quite pan out as expected?
Yeah, so I think that like again, I used to implement CRM tools as a strategy, and one of the things that I helped to pioneer was you in organizations. There's a couple different approaches. There is the where like data and AI is at the middle, and you have all these applications around it, sort of like you would think like in terms of like a warehouse maybe,
Mhm.
have apps around it. The other one is like you have an app and then you're analyzing, you have embedded intelligence in that app to show how that app is working and performing. And so I've seen a lot of dashboards, and I helped to implement some dashboards. And so I've seen companies that take what I think are pretty strong dashboards, but then they don't have like a strategy or a plan wrapped around it.
Yeah.
And so that just is data collected, data analyzed, but with no real purpose. There's it's kind of theatrical because there's no context or action. You want that insight to deliver something, and so the beyond the numbers is the so what. Like so what? So you see that there's a trend and it's going up, or you see a trend and it's going down. Okay, that's great. So now what are you going to do with it? What is your change? That's
Right.
the real value that would come from having a dashboard or an action board, whatever you want to call that, and then sparking that meaningful change and driving decisions.
Yeah.
Without that, I've seen companies that had incredible metrics, incredible dashboards, but then they didn't know what to do with them. On the flip side of that, I've seen some very good companies take similar dashboards and do amazing things with it. So I'd say least impactful are the people that don't know how to take it, the tool and use it as a strategy.
And what do you think is the difference between those two sides of the coin? Like what, in
Oh,
your
wow.
experience with the classroom example, I mean, what stops you from just saying, "Oh man, this is a problem. We have 80% men, 20% women in the class.
Oh, yeah.
The data, we did our job." Like what kind of gets you into the threshold of action?
Oh, like I think understanding what the what is very important. But on the threshold for action, I'd have to give that a little bit of thought. But I mean, it's just basically looking. if you're not looking at the trends, if you're not looking for the insights, what the data is telling you, then you're just oblivious to what can be done.
Yeah.
So I think there, you just have to. I think it's stopping. Sometimes we're like very, very busy. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this, and then stopping every once in a while, and then analyzing where you're at, and look back a little bit and say what has changed, what's working, what's not working. So I think the impetus would be taking the moment to pause on a regular basis
Yeah.
and analyzing where you're at in your situation. Otherwise, you'll never move forward, right? What's the management mantra? What is measured, gets improved.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
I almost think a good visualization too can really spur people into action if it's like the data is presented in a certain way.
Hmm. Yeah,
Sometimes
avoid
just
pie
seeing it
charts. There
visually.
you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Seeing it visually can make such a difference from, oh yeah, like here's some numbers, that's a problem versus, oh wow, like look at that. That is, because we're so visual with how we learn sometimes.
Absolutely. That's something that I do in the classroom is I ask students, I just flat out interview them and say, if you were to learn something new, how would you learn something new? And I take the example of learning how to plant a tree. It's something that's non-technical, but everybody conceptually understands how that would work. And I'm really kind of probing to see how they think their brain works. There's some perceptions. So, would you want to read about it? Would you want somebody just to explain it to you? Would you want to see how it's planted, or would you want to try it yourself? And after doing that semester after semester, class after class, visual, like show me, and then followed very closely with let me try it. So that's the kinetic. The show me is the visual. I think that those are the two strongest ways that people are learning in my classrooms, and maybe that's a little skewed because I'm always looking at computer science students. But maybe that's completely flipped when you look at engineering students. Maybe they're like, read it first, tell me about it, and then show me, then do it. So I do think that there's probably a bias there because of the types of students that I'm teaching, but there's a really strong visual kinetic learning in my classrooms.
Wow. That's very meta to collect data about how to best teach about data.
Yeah, of course.
Practicing what you preach. Absolutely.
But
Back
but
in,
it also because I do it on the board in front of the class live, it's also and I could have done it with a survey, but that's kind of easily done, but a little bit more impersonal, but maybe more scientific for sure because it's a self survey
yeah.
versus like designed questions or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, but it helps them to think about how they best learn as well too. And then I tell them that I will try my best to adjust according to what I've found. But I
Yeah.
almost always find the same things.
Right. And so in this world of teaching, I mean, I hear sometimes a lot that people are interested in data or they know it's powerful, they know it's
Yeah.
a worthwhile tool to have in their tool belt, but maybe they don't consider themselves a math person or they don't really know where to
Oh
start.
yeah, for sure.
What advice would you have to someone just looking to try it out and get started?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I get that question a lot. Sometimes I get that question in the form of, I will just flat out ask them, "Are you afraid of math?" And sometimes you'll get that kind of that sideways look, and I'm thinking, okay, I've changed that question a little bit over time, but it's more math and stats. Like that's multiplying, dividing, standard deviations, mins and max and modes and things of that nature. That's not really difficult math. So if they're not afraid of math, and maybe they don't want to be a software engineer, like a face down, 40 hours, 60 hours a week programmer, but they're not afraid of taking that quantitative reasoning and problem solving with it. So it's really the best place to start is always with Excel and some sort of like data literacy type of course. So understanding some of those principles and then moving to database and SQL. Those are great skills that can be built, and you can go very far with that. Of course, the statistics and the programming, Python, R, are very popular, and in some places, Julia is popular. And then there's a series of analytics tools, and that falls a little bit more under automation. And it never hurts anybody to understand project management in cloud. But when you have all those skills, they are kind of disjointed from each other. What's really important, if you take those skills together and you move them through kind of data cycles, so that you can look at a kind of a nuts to bolts, beginning to end, what does a data project look like? And so what's important for me is to introduce service-based learning, challenges like Data Jam, in which you take a semester and you take these skill sets, combine them over a period of a semester and hone them a little bit, working together in teams. Collaboration is very important. It also hones your communication skills. And then outside of the classroom, there's events. Like we have a group really close to us called Technology First, which brings together a lot of technology companies in our region. And they offer events, they offer peer groups, and they offer even like trainings occasionally. And then very close universities will offer symposiums and summits. And so we try to take advantage of the things that are happening at University of Cincinnati, Miami University, the Ohio State University, to help students expand their network and their opportunities. But I would say, you can get started just by skill building. That can be done online. But in order to really move in data, it does take degrees. So that's even probably like if you were going into cyber, cyber is degrees plus certs, and certs are really powerful. Certs are important to data, but those degrees are a lot more important as you move up the skill chain, especially when you get to the deeper math. It's really hard to do that without degrees. But that's how I would tell people to get started. And I would just check to see if they're like not afraid of programming and not afraid of like stats.
Right. Right. And it's such a broad field as well, like the technology world, stats versus data science versus computer
Yeah, exactly.
science. So
And
there's
even somebody who goes into data, they may not be a programmer, right? They may just be somebody who analyzes the data,
right.
or builds the dashboards, and they may never touch coding tools. And that's something that could happen.
Right. I mean, a lot of our data jam mentors that I've worked with in the past are pre-med students, and they're not going into a data field per se, but they're going to be using data in
Oh,
their everyday
absolutely.
research and just want to be literate in that skill.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of innovation that's happening, across industries in multiple technology areas. Think about manufacturing with digital twins and modeling, and in health. I mentioned health devices before, with like maybe your watch that's catching your pulse and your blood pressure and your O2 or something like that, or how many steps you're getting in a day. Those are the easy ones, right? But there's a lot of things that are happening with Alzheimer's, and nursing is amazing with like all the things that they collect for data. I mean, but it seems like that every sector of society, every sector of industries is being touched by data and AI, and it's being accelerated lately.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's a very important skill to learn or to start getting exposure to. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing your advice and telling some of your stories. I want to wrap up by asking, I know you've helped a lot of students get into different career fields and different paths, solve a lot of different problems. Is there any other final advice that you'd like to share just with students who are interested in data? Maybe they're not completely sold in a career path, but they just they're looking for advice going forward and finding a meaningful career that they can pursue.
Yeah, I mean, like the important things is the hands-on portion of it. The knowledge and the skills are great. what you want to build are those competencies. So touch the tools for sure. Learn the skills, absolutely. Try to build something and analyze something. That's great. I truly believe that data and AI are the springboards to just about everything. That all industries are opening up endless opportunities in those skill areas. So just I would say just kind of as a if I had to like bring it to a close, I would say, we have a very hyper connected, technology, data driven society, and that's intersecting, like everything that we do. And it feels like it's very interdisciplinary as well. So that's the future of work, or maybe it's the now of work. Data is the rule. So stay curious, ask questions, be flexible, and adaptable because technology is changing much faster than most people can keep up with. But your ability to learn and always be learning is very important, and seeing the big picture, like how to connect the dots between something that happens over here and something that happens over here. How do you bring those two things together? And I like what you said before. Like the data is not just numbers; it's really stories about people, and I think that there is a real impact and an ability that we can make some real differences with how we use data and how we make impacts in our community. So that's exciting to me. The big bags of money are what some people want, and I understand that. It feels like that the big companies out west and in New York, and we have data scientists everywhere, but they feel like that they're rock stars, like similar to how sports companies hire athletes. That is true, but it's not always about that. Sometimes it's the satisfaction of knowing that you're impacting people in a positive way. So that's how I like to look at it.
So well said. Such amazing stories and knowledge to share. Paul, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Certainly, it was my pleasure to be a part of Data Jam this year, and we have 3 teams going, and they are really going after it. It's really fun to check in and do little update sessions and see how something like Data Jam is really, really important to me because it helps students get that experiential understanding of taking these skills from disjointed classes and pulling them together in something as amazing as a Data Jam competition.
It's always so amazing to get to see what the teams accomplish. And a huge part of that is thanks to a lot of our Data Jam partners and Data Jam teachers. So thank you so much for all the effort that you put in there as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. We will see you in the next episode of Data Dialogues. Bye.